I felt that a lot of people in my sphere were not really able to face up to the latest climate data and the impacts on human societies, and therefore question what they were doing because they didn't have any kind of map at all. And so that was why I decided to come up with what I've called deep adaptation. And it's three key questions. And it's because also I wanted to not say there are simple answers here, because we're not in control anymore. That's the key thing. And we will act without knowing really whether we're going to be successful in this very uncertain time. So I then introduced, since the three R's. The first one is simply, what is it that we most value, which we want to keep? It's a question of really going deep into not just trying to keep things as they are, but what is it that we most value that we want to keep? And then the second question is the reverse of that then. What is it that we must let go of, or we'll make matters worse? And I call that relinquishment. And then the third thing, which is, well, what have we sort of lost over the last decades in our hydrocarbon-fueled fantasy civilization, which we could bring back to help. So I call that restoration, and that could be simple things like growing food in our back gardens and spending time with our neighbours playing games rather than just sitting in our own air-conditioned or centrally heated flats watching telly. I would just put it as three questions to invite people beyond a progressivist framing of what comes next. So you'll notice in that framing, it's not what do we need to invent or what do we need to do sort of like more of it. It starts from a place of just breathing, letting go, and okay, whoops, we've really messed up, and let's think again with the less hubris about where we go from here. So because I think any attempt to offer a bright vision of the future at the moment is an exercise in delusion. For me, I have hope that more and more people will wake up to what's important in life for themselves, and it will include things like curious, kind, and joyful connection with all life, people and nature. And a vision would be that we find that there are many, many more people with open hearts and minds exploring together what the hell to do next, rather than being set on their worldview and proving themselves right because they are scared of the uncertainty that we face. So I don't have vision or hope where it's like a fixed way of life. It's this process that I know we're all capable of, but we're also all capable of doing some awful things because we're frantic, because we're panicked, and we want to come up with excuses for ourselves for being selfish. So you can see where I've gone with this. It's to go back to core existential questions about, well, what do we value and why are we here, and what do we want to stand for, even if we're going to sink. What I've been doing with people who are very incredulous about this analysis is to say, yes, you should be. And therefore, I really can't say anything other than check it out for yourself. And then say, well, I've spent a few months looking at the latest stuff and it's there, download it and read it. And also, when you're reading it, accept that you don't want to accept it. That's normal. So therefore, rather than postponing your view, and also that can be something else, is that you think, oh, I don't know if I like this, so I just won't look into it. So you postpone your conclusion on it. So rather than that, accept that you don't want to accept it, and therefore, for a thought experiment, try, well, what if this is the case? What would that mean for me? And when you do the what if, know that many people throughout centuries, in fact millennia, and also people that we know alive today, have said that despair is a transition. You know, you don't just go into despair and stay there, so that you can have a faith that if you go into despair, there will be something on the other side, and therefore you will find a new basis for understanding, equanimity, meaning, and joy after despair. So this is how I invite people to really look at this stuff for themselves, because I don't think it would be right if they just listened to me and said, yeah, okay, fine, because that would be that means maybe they wouldn't be taking it to heart. This is such a massive, fundamental challenge to everything we do. Like, should we get up and go to work? Where should I live? What do I believe is the meaning of life in general, and my life in particular? Am I prepared to kill someone who comes to my house to steal all my food? Or actually, do I believe in higher, certain values that are more important than just prolonging my life and those of my children? I mean, or if people really take this stuff to heart, they really have to take it to heart, not just leave it on as an interesting thing on a piece of paper. And so that's what I'm inviting people to do. And in my experience, people who go through that process do not return to denial, do not stay in despair. And even if their initial instinct is survivalist, and they think about buying bulletproof vests and, buying lots of tin food, they soon realize that that's not how they wish to live. That's not really the full expression of who they are. And they end up in a spirit of cherishing what they have, and cherishing their loved ones, cherishing a walk in nature, and cherishing the opportunity to be open and honest about your feelings and how you see the world, and stop pretending.
Hi, guys. So I stopped it because I want to go through a little bit more. That was Dr. Jem Bendell, and I found him last year, but really his stuff was written in this year, last year, 2018, and we put it on the page. But they have a new Facebook group, and he started it, called Deep Adaptation, and it's marvelous. I really like it. I just got involved, but I've read everything, and I'm going to read a little bit of this about the group, because, hi, Antonio, because when you get to this point of acceptance, that collapse, environmental, ecological, societal collapse is going to happen, whether it's in our lifetime or if it's in our children's lifetime. It's going to happen because we're on a trajectory. We've passed some tipping points. But I'm going to read this to you, this piece from his WordPress, and it'll give you a little bit better of an understanding about the group. And I really appreciate you guys being here for me today with this, because it is kind of emotional. And I have, I have a lot of physical things I have to do, and I started doing them, and boom, I threw my back out. So I'm sitting here doing this because it's something I thought I wanted to do. So I'm going to start out with the love in deep adaptation, a philosophy for the forum. So you know kind of what's going on the Facebook page, which I've put up. And I'm not going to show you much more from the page. But it says sharing ideas on outer and inner deep adaptation to unfolding societal breakdown, not chronicling environmental or social breakdown, but focusing on the psychological, spiritual, and practical means to support well-being. But I'm not going to share any more than that because it's a private, it's a closed group, and I wouldn't do that. I would not violate their trust. I want you guys to know about this, and I want to tell you about it. So I'm going to start. Deep adaptation, it refers to the personal and collective changes that might help us prepare for and live with a climate-induced collapse of our societies. Unlike mainstream work on adaptation to climate change, it doesn't assume that our current economic, societal, and political systems can be resilient in the face of rapid climate change. When using the term social or societal collapse, we are referring to the uneven ending to our current means of sustenance, shelter, security, pleasure, identity, and meaning. Others may prefer the term societal breakdown when referring to the same process. We consider the process to be inevitable because of our view that humanity will not be able to respond globally fast enough to protect our food supplies from chaotic weather. People who consider that societal collapse or breakdown is either possible, likely, or already unfolding are also interested in deep adaptation. So 4 questions guide our work on deep adaptation within the forum. Resilience. What do we most value that we want to keep, and how? Relinquishment. What do we need to let go of so as not to make matters worse? Restoration. What could we bring back to help us with these difficult times? Reconciliation. With what and whom shall we make peace as we awaken to our mutual mortality? These questions invite exploration of deep adaptation to our climate predicament in order to develop both collapse readiness and collapse transcendence. Collapse readiness includes the mental and material measures that will help reduce disruption to human life, enabling an equitable supply of the basics like food, water, energy, payment systems, and health. Collapse transcendence refers to the psychological, spiritual, and cultural shifts that may enable more people to experience greater equanimity toward future disruptions and the likelihood that our situation is beyond our control. Uncertainty and lack of control are key aspects of our predicament. We do not know whether what we will do will slow down climate change and societal collapse or reduce harm at scale. And reduce harm is a big thing. Reduce harm. Don't forget those words. Reduce harm. One thing that rapid climate change can help us to learn is the destructiveness of our delusions about reality and what is important in life. Key to this delusion is the emphasis that many of us have on our separate identities. Since birth, we have been invited to other people and nature. We often assume other people to be less valuable, smart, or ethical as us, or we assume we know what they think. We justify that in many ways, using stories of nationality, gender, morals as separate from us. Therefore, we have not regarded the rivers, soils, forests, and fields as part of ourselves. Taken together, this offering of people and nature means we dampen any feelings of connection or empathy to such a degree that we can justify exploitation, discrimination, hostility, violence, and rampant consumption. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to read a little bit about the group. I think there was something else I wanted to read. No, how about I just read this? Therefore, in our work with others on deep adaptation, we wish to pursue and enable loving responses to our predicament. I don't know, I lost that page. To our predicament. Every interaction offers an opportunity for compassion. It just seems difficult when it feels as if someone is trying to criticize your view, perhaps because they prefer to see collapse as unlikely or human extinction as certain. But to return to compassion, even if we fall away from it in the moment, feels an important way of living our truth. And it is something we can do at any time. Return to compassion. We shall seek to return to universal compassion in all our work and remind each other to notice in ourselves when anger, fear, panic, insecurity may be influencing our thoughts or behaviors. It is also important to remember to take care of ourselves, especially when the urgency of our predicament can easily lead to burnout. Return to curiosity. We recognize that we do not have many answers on specific technical or policy matters. Instead, our aim is to provide a space and an invitation to participate in a generative dialogue that is founded in kindness and curiosity. We don't always see all that on the internet, do we? Return to respect. We respect other people's situations and however they may be reacting to our alarming predicament while seeking to build and curate nourishing spaces for deep adaptation. So that's the page. I lost it. Let me show you again, and I'll show you the page again, and I'll share it, and let me get it up there. No, it doesn't want to seem to share. I don't know why. Let's see. I'll try it again. You know, technical stuff is always fun, isn't it? And I tried a new, it says change source. No, I don't want to do that. Okay, here it is. So here's the page again. And let me see if I can get it bigger. Okay, without showing anything private, really. It's a nice page. And I'm like really, I'm liking it. So I've read this, talked about this. We've shared a lot of this stuff on our Environmental Coffee House page. And I also want to not forget, before I finish, to talk about two other people before we go into our conversation with you guys. Carolyn Baker and Dean Walker, because Carolyn's been doing this work for a long time. Carolyn's work is, I'm just going to read a quote about Carolyn. Carolyn Baker is a true revolutionary and forerunner for the emerging zeitgeist of what I have come to call perennialist movement, a trust built on the foundations of indigenous wisdom and spiritual heritage. She is providing a safe place to have dangerous conversations about uncertain futures, and it is our best hope for the societal schizophrenia that is truly the gravest danger of our humanity. John Glavis, and I feel that way about it. And then one more is Dean Walker, who I've had on. And Carolyn, I went to her in 2017. I went to her workshop because I'm in Colorado to work out some of my own personal issues, and it helped immensely. And I've talked about that before. I'm just going to read you a little piece that Dean wrote. And Dean has a marvelous Living Resilience Net website. Professor Jem Bendell, in an interview with Stuart Scott of UPF-SI and Scientists Warning TV, fleshing out his distinction, Deep Adaptation, which is what I showed you. Bendell is a rare voice, speaking truth to power, speaking to the world, but also his colleagues in the sustainable business area. His 2018 writings were deemed too fear-inducing to be published in their journal, so he published them himself. The writings in Bendell have gone viral. I find the core of the themes of Bendell's Deep Adaptation to be completely consistent with the work of Living Resilience, which is Dean Walker's stuff. And I did want to do a little shout out to Stuart Scott of Scientists Warning. Stuart announced recently, and Stuart is somebody that I have just grown to love through his work. He's hosted all of the COPs at the IPCC meetings. He has Scientists Warning. He's got wait, let me find it because I forget it's UPFSI. And I'll put links up. But Stuart's been diagnosed, and he put this publicly so I can say it, because we all need to clearly send healing karma to Stuart Scott. He is an amazing human being, and he's got bone cancer. And it's always the good. Always the good. I don't want to start crying because I was very upset to read it. And Stuart has been instrumental in so much in so many people's lives. So let's segue. Let's go down and Angie, welcome. You saw him speak in November for the first time, and you've been to a talk where they gave out support links for grief. And you can find those things through the different, what I read to you with this group. And near-term human extinction support is also another one where there's support. There is then Dean Walker's Living Resilience. There's Carolyn Baker. There are a lot of support. There's a lot of support out there, and we will find all of it. We will find all of it. But it's nice that you got to see him speak. And Heidi said, Heidi is so sweet. She shared out what I shared out. This sounds wonderful. Please join us. Might be good for strategies and healing. Sending love from Southern Maine. And Angie, she said, he was quite clear that the collapse could be sudden and faster than the IPCC predicts. But what I get out of it is it's not about all the horrors that we show all the time on Environmental Coffee House. It's not about sharing what's happening. It's about how can we live? How can we live? And in the group, there are all kinds of units. And if your interests are in different things, you can join up with different people who have similar interests. I'm interested particularly in the grief and counseling due to my background. But there's a lot of different things in this group. And they are strict because they're not going to share just, the stuff that's happening, which you can get from other groups. They're not going to do that. They're going to share, they're going to talk about these adaptation strategies that we all can live and use. And I will read a little bit. He did say the group has reached over 2,000 members, and all are welcome, but not all behaviors, So they have very clear guidelines, and the aim is to focus on positive ideas after collapse. Acceptance, to be supportive, not on proving collapse, i.e. disaster news, which we sure show a lot of that. So I think it's a great start for us that follow ECH to maybe check this out and see if it fits what you need. And yes, Patrick, I believe the group is interested in solutions, but before you join and before you start putting out your solutions, feel them out, okay? Because right at this moment, well, I can put up the page, and I can look and see if they are in the, no, I really can't actually. I mean, I can look at the announcements, but I don't want to look at anything, any private, anything. So actually I can't do it because that's the group. That's for the group. You have to join their group. So that's what I wanted to bring you today. I wanted to talk about this because I think it's really super important. And I think we've been looking to feel better about the collapse that's coming, whether it comes, you know, like I said, in my lifetime, I am older and I am disabled and I have a lot of issues. I don't know. But how can I live where I live and stay here so that we can sustain a lifestyle that's clean and purge all the junk, you know, we don't need, clean up our lifestyle, just do, you know, do things that will help the environment and join up with environmental action groups. If that's what your thing is, I always say go local. Local is the way to go. And I do believe that deep adaptation, along with others, like the climate mobilization, like the Extinction Rebellion, which is coming to where I am in Buffalo, and it's April 15th, and I'm going to try to go, which is my birthday. And even if I feel crappy, as disabled as I am, I would like to film it. And if anybody has a problem with that, who is watching me, well, I'm sorry, but you know, because somebody's disabled doesn't mean they can't walk a bit and do a film of an activist march. Extinction Rebellion has some commonality with, I believe, with deep adaptation. People are working on how to meld the two. So I'll put the links in. I put a lot of links into things for you. And I hope that you share this. I'm going to put his name up one more time. Dr. Jem Bendell. And so you remember, he's pretty awesome, out of the University of Cumbria in the UK. And I'm glad you came. Heidi says, thank you so much, Sandy. And to everyone who's making a contribution to our ECH community and family and world, love everyone. And it makes me feel good that this is a community. And it is a community, and it's loving people. You know, that's why in the comment sections, I don't put up with ugly behavior. Others do, others don't care, you know. I was recently already, I made a comment on a Paul Beckwith video, and somebody named Sterling Pound jumped all over me because I could even read it to you, because I wrote the word feeling. You know, I felt something, but I felt something from observation. And actually, if I can find this, I'll read it to you, because it was something that I don't understand when we're all in the same boat. And I don't understand how sometimes people can be so, you know, so harsh. When I watched the Paul Beckwith video, and it was the one on, you know, what's happening in our Arctic, and he put up graphs, and I said, you know, we're talking about a blue ocean event, and I wrote, and this is how I interpret. You know, we've seen horrible weather events. We've seen weather whiplash. If we follow Paul, and we follow Jim Massa, and we follow Just Have a Think, and we follow all these other scientists as well, we see. And I wrote, it was just a comment. I feel that we're already experienced the blue ocean event, building up to it by the state of the Arctic already. Once it is considered a blue ocean event, our planet will already is suffering the effects of the blue ocean event. It'll simply get worse. Then all bets are off, if there were any. And then Sterling Pound writes, seriously, Please, what you feel is really not relevant or of interest if it's not based on observation and measurement. How many years have I been at this already? I have a research background. We know how you feel. We all feel the same way, but this feelings-based commentary is systematic of a general self-regarding idiocy that makes climate change denial of equal importance to calls for change. Where he got that, I have no idea. And I was upset. And somebody else, responded in a nice way. But then I wrote back, Sterling, what I feel is from what I understand by observation, have learned from reading and watching and conversing. And I'm sorry that I used the wrong term for you to understand my point, which is our global weather patterns are behaving as if we are at the precipice of a blue ocean event, if not already there, which is the Arctic having ice-free periods of time, which will wreak havoc on weather. I have no idea how you can equate my comment to climate denial. Self-regarding idiocy? Sheesh, I wrote. And other people chimed in, but this other dude then puts in, oh, Sterling Pound, good point. This comment should be put under all of the climate vids. I'm so full of whining people who shout obvious things without any new information. You know, I look at these people and I think how sad and how pathetic that they have to sit there and put someone else down who puts something from their heart in a comment section. And that's what happens all the time. And, you can thank our political system for bringing the ugliness out. We're all on the same team here. We're all on the same page. And I was pretty pissed, but I wasn't pissed at the fact that this moron had to write that. I was pissed at what he wrote. What is he talking about? Well, anyway, there's always going to be some person that's going to, you almost don't want to comment on anything, but I'm not afraid. Bring it on, because I'm not afraid of critique. You want to critique me in the right way, not with some little YouTube commentary to put me down. That's wrong, because what I'm doing here, I don't think should be put down, So I had to do my little rant on that one. Okay, so Patrick said he didn't see. Well, maybe because solutions to the issue are not what this is about. And I really believe that what deep adaptation is how we are going to live, how we are adapting. And there's going to be more to this. Karen says, I think we should all make the days on earth left to love and connect with those whom we care about right now. Yes. And the mantra of do the least harm. Angie said, what I have gained is more connection with similar-minded people to try to build a resilient local community. Also, it's bringing our mortality into sharper focus than we normally acknowledge. And so making my valuable life, me value life more. And absolutely, I value my life, no matter how miserable I am or how I hurt or what the things are. I value my life every day, because every day there's something to live for somewhere. Even if you feel that there isn't, look around, open your mind. There's something to live for. Well, thank you for coming. I don't know how long I've been on. I'm going to do the little timer thing, and I have no idea. But no, it's not telling me. Hi, Matt. Matt says waves. Hi, Matt. Nice to have Matt with us. Matt's a climatologist, scientist. So once again, this is the page. And I really do hope that you guys will take a look and read what they say. Read what they say, see if it's for you. And if it's not, it's not. But it's just another tool in our arsenal of handling what we have learned and what we know. And we all need to support each other, not tear each other down like the comment sections. That's not right. Not when we're all in this together. And trying to make someone feel inferior or stupid or not intelligent is not cool. And the only ones I do that to are clueless moron politicians. But that's for another live stream. Everybody have a great time. Great day. Geoadaptation, yes. Yeah, Matt, you know about what we're talking about because you understand it. You're living deep adaptation. You're living it. Matt's living it. Bev said, we are all concerned about the earth and the water. If people can't understand that, it's not your job to make some viewer feel better. I'll check this out. Many thanks, Sandy. Well, it's not necessarily to make a viewer feel better. My job is to bring things to you, open your minds. Of course, I want to make people feel better because I don't want to hurt anybody. That's not what I'm about. That's what I've never been about. So I'm going to end and say, love and light, Sandy. Be well, from Kim. I love you all. And thanks for coming. And please share this out because it's very important information. I think more mainstream people need to learn this and see what's going on with deep adaptation so they're not caught like a deer in the headlights. We don't want to be a deer in the headlights.